Howie Roseman and the Birds have been on a tear, executing 3 more trades over the weekend, with new reports now suggesting the biggest move is still to come. Also hear why ESPN is trying to rip away one of Philadelphia's brightest young stars, plus the latest on A.J. Brown's hamstring and Micah Parsons' holdout that will affect Week 1. Oh, and the first round of roster cuts are here, and they're already causing a stir. I'm Thomas Mott. This is the Thomas Mott Show. If you were expecting a quiet end to Eagles training camp where Philadelphia would internally sit down and simply work through the 53-man roster cuts without much drama, well, you were dead wrong. As the madman that is Howie Roseman made not 1, not 2, but 3 trades on Sunday, has now made 5 trades in the month of August alone. Reportedly, he still might not be done. Also, the Game Changers t-shirt gift card winners are announced at the end of today's show, so stay tuned for that. But the next big giveaway happens to be one of my signed Philly dog, Nolan Smith, Jordan Davis, Nakobe Dean helmets at $105,000. I'll give this away to one of the subscribers, so drop a like and let me know down in the comments section if you want to win this. Now, I figured I'd start with the latest roster cuts as Philadelphia has begun trimming down the 37 players necessary to go from 90 to 53 by Tuesday afternoon. And naturally, side note, little PSA here, cuts are happening by the hour right now, so I have the list of current up-to-date cuts as of filming. It can change, same goes for trades. Take it all with a grain of salt, but here's who we know has been cut as of right now. So far, confirmed, Dorian Thompson-Robinson, Lewis Cine, Kenyon Green, E.J. Jenkins, Nick Muse, Keelan Robinson, Montreal Johnson, and Kyle McCord. With names like Kyle McCord, Johnson, Muse, and I think E.J. Jenkins likely coming back in the next 24 hours on the Birds practice squad, but that won't be made official until tomorrow afternoon. The biggest name of that list, though, has got to be Kenyon Green, the offensive lineman, because Philadelphia traded for Kenyon Green, if you forgot, for C.J. Gardner-Johnson a couple of months ago, meaning that they basically gave away Gardner-Johnson for virtually nothing because Green did not even make the roster. Now, if you've been watching my show, you know that Philadelphia wanted to get rid of Gardner-Johnson for more than just cap reasons, but still, the fact they traded away a really, really good safety in a unit that could use some safety help right now for a guy who did not make the final 53, Howie Roseman, he hits a lot, but there are still some technical misses every now and then. Still, though, going back to Kyle McCord briefly, I think he's the other big name that's been cut so far right here, but expect Philadelphia to try and at least bring him back on the practice squad sometime tomorrow afternoon. Although technically, he can sign with anybody else, although young quarterbacks, at least rookies, they need reps and time in the same system, and so I'd be shocked if he wants to go anywhere else, but definitely someone to keep an eye on the next couple of hours. Now, as far as the trades go, all 3 fit like small pieces to a grand puzzle that is the 2025 roster. The most recent one sending offensive lineman Kinnard to the Packers for a 2027 6th-round pick. And while this trade is the least noteworthy of the 3, it still matters for a multitude of reasons in terms of offensive line depth and really making room for Fred Johnson. Hands down, the funniest part about trading Kinnard, though, is that he's only one of 2 players, along with Ken Norton Jr., to win 3 consecutive Super Bowls. 2 with the Chiefs, and then last year with the Philadelphia Eagles. I guess now he's a Packer, so will the 4-peat happen? As an Eagle fan, I hope not. Howie's comfort in losing Kinnard, though, tells me he didn't actually hate some of the offensive line play, more specifically from the rookies during camp. Not that the backups were fantastic or anything, just ask Kyle McCord, but I thought 6th-rounder Miles Hinton, for example, showed a ton of raw talent and potentially could be the future for Philadelphia. Likewise, fellow 6th-rounder Drew Kendall was the 6th highest-graded rookie offensive lineman in the entire preseason. It looks like Philadelphia got another dog at backup center. This whole idea that Howie hated his backup offensive lineman is just not simply true. I know they weren't great during the preseason, but this is more Howie loving a really good backup swing tackle than anything else. Which naturally leads right into the most important trade from Sunday. Philadelphia traded for former Eagle, and I guess now former Jaguar offensive tackle Fred Johnson in a very cheap swap of 2026 7th-round picks. And it's crazy because Johnson was just on the world champion Eagles roster a couple of months ago, but then was allowed to leave in free agency to Jacksonville for some reason, despite becoming a very solid backup swing tackle for the Birds in 2024. In case you forgot, Lane Johnson and Jordan Mailata did miss a combined 6 games last year, and in those games Fred Johnson filled in, Philadelphia went 5-1. With his best game coming against the Cincinnati Bengals, and all-world edge rusher Trey Hendrickson is shown here in this film breakdown by Brian Baldinger shortly after that game.
Let's look at the job that Fred Johnson did last week and has been doing the last 3 weeks. He's going against one of the best pass rushers in the whole NFL. Like, he stops his feet right here. He literally, Trey Hendrickson's feet stop. Jaelan right here, he can go check all of his email and reply to him. Fred's given him so much time. Like, it's just a consistent thing. He's got an eyeball on the ball. He's got an eyeball on Trey Hendrickson. So he gets off on the snap. This place gets loud in the jungle. But this is one of the best rushers in the entire NFL. You just keep watching him one-on-one all game long against this guy. Not a lot of help. In fact, very little help. So it starts with this set. Watch his hands. See that left hand? It's inside. Now, Trey's going to try and knock his hands off because he knows that's how you get there. But look at him. Just freeze it constantly. Just freeze it. when Jalen Hurts releases the ball and see where Trey Hendrickson is. This was a fantastic job last week. Like, look at that left hand right there on the post. Just ride him around the horn right here. All right?
And yet Johnson was still allowed to leave in free agency for very cheap as well, less than $2 million a year from the Jacksonville Jaguars. That's mainly because he was rated pretty poorly by PFF. He had some nice moments, especially against Trey Hendrickson, but overall he was graded at the bottom end of offensive tackles in 2024, and so he saw an opportunity to go maybe compete for a job in Jacksonville instead of just be a backup in Philadelphia. Took the opportunity, didn't win the job, and now he's back in Philadelphia. Also, I want to give a massive shout out to the sponsor of this video, SeatGeek. We are literally so close to the Eagles actually playing football games, real, regular season ones, at the link and away, and I know you guys want tickets to that. I know you guys are going to buy tickets to those games, and so why not use my partner SeatGeek, because trust me, they're way better and make it so much easier for you to find the best deals on all of your Eagle tickets. And yes, if your wife wants to go to, say, a comedy show, a music festival, or anything non-Eagles related, SeatGeek has those as well, with over 70,000 listed events. When I get my tickets for Eagles games this year, I'm using SeatGeek. I've used them a ton in the past, and really the main reason is they make it so darn easy to make sure you're getting the best deal. Their rating system is the best thing to ever happen to ticket buying because green dots, very simple, that means a great deal. Yellow and red, not so much, they're probably gonna be more expensive. And since I'm here for you guys, I know you're buying tickets soon, why don't you use my promo code with SeatGeek, that's promo code Mott10 at checkout, and get 10% off your purchase of tickets. So just download the SeatGeek app or click the link down below me somewhere right here in my description box, add my promo code Mott10, get the 10% off, and go enjoy the Eagles in person. If you've never been, or if you go all the time, it's a blast, and use SeatGeek to help. And after losing Johnson in free agency, Roseman rolled the dice on some rookies, and again, didn't fail, but clearly should have just paid a few more dollars to keep Johnson as a solid backup this coming season. I mean, don't forget, Lane Johnson said in a podcast very recently that he could retire at the end of this year if the Birds were to go back-to-back.
If we win it all this year, hey, I could be done this year. That's how I feel. But
it's on the horizon a little bit, the mortality of yourself.
Yeah, yes.
Which would mean a massive hole on the right side of the Eagles' offensive line. They need to plug it during the draft, at least early next year. But Fred Johnson, another year underneath Stoutland University, maybe he figures things out. Maybe they like him enough to extend him this coming free agency and let him compete for the starting job if Lane were to leave. Not guaranteed. And I've said this before, but Howie Roseman does deserve a ton of credit for evolving his philosophy as a GM year after year. In the past 5 years, Howie has gone from never figuring out wide receiver to finally emphasizing linebacker and heck, even running back. The Birds GM is an ever-changing man of mystery whose latest trick has been ensuring his best talent always have a solid backup in case the worst were to happen. Something that paid off a ton most recently in 2024. Moving on to the third trade of the weekend, and Sam Howell to Philadelphia for a 5th, 7th, and 6th back makes a lot more sense this morning after we learned from Ian Rappaport that Tanner McKee suffered a fractured thumb on his throwing hand and is now likely to not be available for Week 1 versus the Cowboys, which is just 10 days from today. So that puts to bed all of the trade Tanner McKee conspiracy theories. Once Sam Howell was moved to Philadelphia, it was like, ooh, they're making some sort of massive move and trading Tanner McKee. Not the case. The thumb is worse than we thought, as I said a couple of days ago, and Sam Howell is simply assurance that Philadelphia does not have to play Kyle McCord if the worst were to happen to Jalen Hurts. Howell's a 3-year veteran with 20 career starts under his belt and someone who, at one point, had the Birds' number when both he and Jahan Dotson, crazy, carved up the Birds' defense twice in 1 year back in 2023. The good news, though, is that all of these trades that happen on Sunday are not going to affect Week 1. Like Sam Howell and Fred Johnson are not going to play. Knock on wood, hopefully they don't play versus the Dallas Cowboys and might not even play at all this season. But what it is extra assurance to make sure that one big injury does not sink the Birds' entire chance to repeat as Super Bowl champions. Again, a GM tactic that Howie Roseman implemented a couple of years ago, and it's made all of the difference for Philadelphia during the long stretches of NFL seasons where guys get hurt, they come back in. Great to have good backups, and the Eagles made sure of that this weekend. Side note, though, the funniest part of the Howell trade, for instance, is the fact that Minnesota apparently did that to make room for none other than Carson Wentz. Now joins his 5th new team and 6th overall since being traded by the Birds back in the spring of 2021. Pretty wild how that turned out and how it all eventually worked out for the good in Philadelphia. The craziest part about all of these trades, though, is the fact that there are still a ton of Eagle fans and beat writers, I'll show you, who still think Philadelphia is not done and is still going to make more moves in the next couple of days. And we'll start with ESPN, who apparently this morning is trying to convince Philadelphia Eagle fans that they need to go ahead and trade for Trey Hendrickson, which we've heard a lot the past couple of months. I don't think it's happening, but especially not for this proposed trade, where they want us to give Jaelan and a 2026 third rounder and a conditional 2027th pick to go ahead and get the aging pass rush star, which is honestly hilarious to me because I'm the biggest Jaelan fan, only because he's super nice and I've met him multiple times in person, but he's like the breakout player for the Birds defense heading into year 2. I mean, literally all camp long, every single beat writer has said that Hunt looks night and day better from where he was as a rookie. And this is really classic ESPN trade bait slop that they put up on their website because this is not going to happen. And yet it creates the headline that ESPN links Trey Hendrickson to Philadelphia and people go nuts. But it's not going to happen for a bevy of reasons, including A, the fact Hendrickson is about to be 30 years old. Jalen is just 24. B, he wants $40 million a year, where Jalen Hunt is on a rookie third-round contract, so pennies on the dollar. And the most overlooked factor is that Trey Hendrickson has not practiced literally all offseason long. He's still holding out from the Bengals for the new contract and is nowhere near football shape. So if you were to trade for him even today, his chances of being impactful, not only week 1, but week 2, week 3, the first month of the season is very, very small. Whereas Jalen Hunt has been practicing all offseason long and, as we said, looks night and day better. I've said for months that the Birds are not going to trade for Trey Hendrickson. I would be shocked to get that notification from Adam Schefter in the next couple of days or hours or whenever it could happen. But if they were going to do it, Nolan Smith and especially Jalen Hunt are not going to be involved. It is not going to happen, guys. They might not be done making trades, but Hendrickson is not one of them. A much more realistic trade before the start of the season would be something like what Ed Krantz had on his latest weekend article for SA.com, where he said, quote, "The two names I keep hearing to keep an eye on are Travon Walker and Jaelan Phillips," which is actually real reporting from a real Eagles insider in Krantz who covers Philadelphia from a day-to-day basis. He's at every single practice. He would have inside information as to who Philadelphia could potentially want. So Travon Walker and Jaelan Phillips at least make a ton more sense. Now, Travon is the more expensive option here. He would cost likely a first-round draft pick and Keely Ringo, according to Krantz. But reuniting the former #1 overall pick out of Georgia with the Philly Dogs once again would make this pass rush as elite as possible. He's also a lot younger than Trey Hendrickson. The more budget-friendly option, though, of Dolphins edge Jaelan Phillips would cost a ton less because he has been hurt the past couple of seasons and not producing as much and became way more expendable when Miami signed Matthew Judon a couple of weeks ago. Both Walker and Phillips want brand new contracts, and so this does make a ton of sense and actually has some real reporting behind it. Does Philadelphia actually make the phone call and do the trade? I don't know. I'd still put it at a very less likely than actually likely to happen. But Walker and Phillips are cheaper than Trey Hendrickson and younger, and so look for these two names if the Birds were to make a call. Oh, it's not just one Eagles beat writer in Krantz hinting at an edge, as fellow Eagle beat writer John McMullen randomly tweeted yesterday that, quote, "Edge rusher is the next logical domino for Birds GM Howie Roseman." Still, though, I'm going to put the likelihood of Travon Walker, Trey Hendrickson, Jaelan Phillips all at very, very unlikely, as I personally think the Eagles are done with trades, mainly due to the fact that the season is right around the corner. Moving on to the season being, again, literally 10 days away, and the two big storylines for week 1, at least right now, Eagles versus Cowboys, is the status of both teams' superstar players, starting with A.J. Brown, who still hasn't practiced with the Birds in nearly 23 days counting, I think, right now, with that hamstring injury, but could finally make his debut later on this week. Of course, the indications of him running routes for the Jets game and beat writers saying he's ramping up his workouts are to be believed. I do think Brown could technically not practice this week, get back next Monday before the game, and still be okay, but I want to see him on the football field this week just to make sure he gets his conditioning up and is 100% ready to go. Does Philadelphia need Brown to beat the Cowboys? I don't think so, but I'd like him to be out there to make sure the route can be on. The same, however, cannot be said for Cowboy edge rusher Micah Parsons, who, as of today, remains unsigned and is now baked into a brand new controversy due to him being the only Cowboy at Dallas's final preseason game over the weekend, not wearing at least a jersey, and also spotted resting briefly on a table, laying back and relaxing during said game. Obviously, Parsons is doing this because he's in a very ugly battle with geriatric Jerry for a new contract, which Adam Schefter said this morning on Get Up is nowhere near getting done, and he thinks Parsons will miss week 1, at least versus the Birds. Even if Micah Parsons were to sign with the Dallas Cowboys right now, like this afternoon as you're watching this show, it's not going to make a difference for week 1 because he's not going to be in football shape. Going one-on-one against Lane Johnson or Jordan Mailata for 4 straight quarters, it takes a lot of serious NFL conditioning and practice to actually get your lungs ready to go. So, either he's going to be out there, either he's not going to be out there. Either way, he will not be a factor in the week 1 matchup, and that is good news for Philadelphia. Finally, super quick fun, just here for a second. The NFL Top 100 just ranked Jalen Hurts 19th overall this morning in their annual poll as voted on by his peers, showcasing yet another brutal blow for the Hurts haters pretending to be national TV hosts who have the Birds quarterback outside the top 10 in their QB rankings heading into 2025. This means Hurts has now been ranked inside the top 20 by his peers in each of the past 3 seasons, all but solidifying that the guys he's playing against on a weekly basis view him as an elite player, even if Chase Daniels, for instance, does not. Always important to remember that winning games, especially Super Bowls and Super Bowl MVPs, go a lot further than hypothetical scenarios that people love to bring up when talking about the best in the business, not named Jalen Hurts. I, for one, am glad that Jaelan is on our side going into 2025. Now, I mentioned on my Saturday show that I'm going to have 3 new gift card winners for the Game Changers t-shirt giveaways, and those guys were randomly selected, subscribers, of course, and they were at Smash Orchard, at Michael Hayes 3203, and at Z Watson 3000. So, as usual, go down below my description box and prove it's you. Send me an email. It's all linked down below me right now. Watch out for scammers. I will always announce the winners on my show. You have to watch me say your name. I will not reply to one of your comments saying, you won, pal, you won, buddy. So stay vigilant out there. But you 3 are the winners. And of course, hit the subscribe button because more giveaways are happening very, very soon. And a lot more Eagle news as well. If they make another trade, it's the first place to go to find out what happened. And of course, we're getting ready for the Cowboy game. More practices happening this week. A lot is going on. And so be sure to go ahead and subscribe, including my home renovations you hear down below me right now. So ignore those as well. I'm Thomas Mott. This has been the Thomas Mott Show.